Peter, of course, has become one of those people. And it was Marcia who introduced me to Peter. She's one of those people too, who's no longer here, but very powerful. And the first really significant memory I have of Peter was almost exactly this time of year in 1979, when he insisted that I could give a speech at the Ontario Association for Community Living's first conference. I don't do things like that. Except, of course, since Peter arrived in my life, I've been doing that for something like 35 years now. So I do very distinctly remember that. But I think that all of us probably remember Peter for something way more important than that. And that is that Peter was the one who told us to listen. To listen and listen. And when you're sick and tired of listening, try some listening. See what might happen. And when I lived in the institution, in the West Park Hospital, and when I was very, very sick, and literally was put on the death list, during those months, there was something going on for me which I just could not explain. And that was I had this intense fantasy about being a truck driver. And I mean one of these large 18-wheeler kind of trucks that, in my fantasy, I would be filling up the truck with really expensive and important things, and then driving that truck to somewhere far away like Baja, California, and selling those expensive things for enough money that I could come back and live happily and comfortably in Toronto for 6 months a year. So 6 months a year I would be out traveling, and 6 months a year I would be at home doing other things that in fancy it didn't matter, but they were important things. And I knew that I would never be a truck driver. So I hated myself for having that fantasy. But it would not go away. Very compelling. Probably about 2, maybe 3 years after my circle was well underway, and I was living in my own apartment, and I was very healthy, thank you, and I had begun a career of traveling around North America and parts of Europe, giving workshops on citizen advocacy and on inclusion and on streaming and all kinds of stuff. I realized that my fantasy had been trying to tell me who I could be and what kind of life I could sustain. And that the life I was living was, in a very real sense, a map, like you can map it onto the fantasy of the truck driver dream. I was traveling approximately 6 months of the year. I was taking things to people that they thought or would eventually think were very important. And I was getting paid for it. And as a result, I could actually live. I'd be away from Toronto about 6 months of the year, if you spread it out over the year. And I'd be at home, working with families, being in my neighborhood, doing all kinds of things for 6 months in a year. And that was when I really began to understand what Peter Dill was trying to tell me, and I think tell us, was that there is a message that we all have, not about what we need, but about who we are. And about who we are, by that I mean the thing that we bring to the planet, or the things that we bring to the planet, that are important to other people, and that other people will see as valuable, and that other people will be attracted to. And so, out of those things, we can create our contribution that gives us citizenship, gives us value in the community, gives us the possibility of belonging and being powerful. And that there is no person in the world who does not dream. We all do. Let me give you a different kind of analogy. I got this from John O'Brien, who I think is over there. John said at least once, maybe more than once, that it frustrated him how much we talk about people as if we were ice cube trays, or like we had ice cube trays in our tummy, and that what you really needed to do when you were a human being was fill up your ice cube tray. So I need a job, that's one of my slots in my ice cube tray. I fill that up. I need a relationship. I fill up that part of my ice cube tray. I need a good place to live. I fill up the ice cube tray, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? That we talk about ourselves as if we were needy, and those needs need to be filled up. And when it comes to individualized planning, when it goes off the rails, that's how it goes off the rails. We talk about each other as if we were programs in the making, and all we need to be is really slotted into the right place and have the right parts of us filled up. And once we're all fixed up, everything will be okay forever. It doesn't work that way, right? It doesn't work that way for anybody. It doesn't work that way for the people that we label. But certainly it doesn't work that way for anybody, actually. So Peter was pointing at that. Pointing at that none of us could really speak about our dream fully unless we surrounded ourselves by other people who would listen. And that in the process of trying to articulate, trying to speak about this message that each of us has inside of us, that it was the process that would lead us forward, not the result. It was the actual act of listening and speaking dream that created the energy and the vitality and the resources and the pathways that would lead people to find their way in life and to be fully contributing people in whatever way can work for them. This action, this idea, is a revolution. It's sometimes I think it's a bit like Nelson Mandela. who clearly, he and his friends, created a revolution in the world. That revolution is no more or no less than the revolution of listening to music. In my opinion, I don't know if I'll ever make a movie of Peter Dill. Somebody should. He probably wouldn't like it if we did. And he'd cry all the way through it anyway. But he really should. I remember very distinctly I guess it would be about 1979, as the parents' study group was meeting in Toronto, and all they did was talk about their dreams and invite new people to come and hear them. Jill Shadetz is in the room somewhere, right? I'm sure you remember those days. It made no sense. But part of the point is that we've got to give up believing that it will ever make sense. It's not about making sense. It's about listening. And it's about dreaming. So, just to give you one more story about it not making any sense, but one of the young men that came into my life as a personal assistant is really deeply into video games. And very soon after I met him, this is about 4 years ago now, he says to me, there ought to be a video game about inclusion. Why not, right? So we went to give a speech at a local college where young people, like I'm talking about people who are like 19, 20 years old, are learning how to create video games, and we talk about inclusion. And in the middle of the talk, one of the kids, like just a young person, is saying, well, why don't we make a game about inclusion and we'll kill the zombies? And I said, well, wait a minute, if this is really about inclusion, then why wouldn't we include the zombies? Right? And out of that thought, we are in fact creating a video game. It actually exists in prototype. And someday soon, God knows when, but someday soon we'll find the partner that creates the capacity for us to put the prototype on the market. And there will in fact be a multiplayer RPG game where people get the experience of being fully included based on supporting zombies to build community together. And we were meeting together for a month last year in my apartment to design the actual guts of the game. And one of the things that the video game developer, who's a young man from Arizona who stayed with me for a while, one of the things he said is that art is very crucial to the making of video games, because without the art, nothing about the game is visible. And I got one of the biggest ahas of my life when I realized that my life is an awful lot about making the invisible visible. And that's what Peter was talking about today. It's about making the thing that we will never be able to see, which is our brain, and the thing that we will never be able to fully articulate, which is our dream, making it real and present in the community through talking and listening and building relationships with each other. That's the So I began to actually create some of the art for the video game. And in the process, discovered that there is a style of art called cell shading. But this style of art has been created by video game artists. And it's very, very much like the art that I love to do anyway on my iPad and with my art facilitators. And by the way, it's very similar to the art that the group of 7 also used quite a bit to make the invisible experience of the wonderful landscape of Canada visible to the viewers of the paintings. All of which to say is, I suddenly realized that my dream of being a truck driver has morphed into a dream of being a great Canadian artist. Now, it doesn't make any sense. And you could never put it on a program plan. But that's the power that we have been given to understand by Peter Dill, is that through dreaming, all things are possible.